So I'm hoping that a couple of you have seen my recent video indicating that I'm going to talk and wax lyrical about the Land Rover Defender. And this is the second video in that series. And I'm going to talk very briefly about what it's like to drive, because that seems to be the thing that most people are interested in. Actually, that's not true. I don't know why I said that. It is the case that most people I have spoken to have expressed some interest in how the Defender drives and how it compares to earlier Defenders and other Land Rover vehicles and all this sort of stuff. And then there's another sort of subset of, I'm just going to have to be very careful where I'm going here because it's a little bit bumpety. And another subset of people are more interested in, perhaps those that own them and those that are going to own them, are more interested in the random little curious things that I'm going to post, I think probably more at length. So the first thing I've got to tell you is that I've had quite a lot of Land Rovers in the past. I've had 47 of them, and I've had all kinds of them. I've had, in fact, I think the only things I've not had, I was talking about this with a friend of mine the other day, the only things I haven't had are a VLAR. I've not had one of those. I haven't had a D5. I haven't had an Evoque, but that might change if my significant other gets her car. And I haven't had a 2B forward control, which is a bit of a rare thing. And I also haven't had a 110, oddly enough, the original classic Land Rover Defender 110. Although I do now have a 110, so I don't know whether that counts. I think not having a Defender counts. Anyway, I've had pretty much everything else. I had a Series 1, Series 2, Series 2A, Series 3. I've had a 109. I had cut down 109. I've had several Range Rover Classics, many Range Rover Classics. I've had a Defender 90. I had an early Defender 90, and then I had like a 90 on its own, you know, not before Defender came out and deregistered one. And I had, what else have I had? I've had a bunch of Series 1s. I've had a forward control, a 101 forward control. I've had quite a lot of things. I've had them all. I've had many things. L322, Range Rover, full size, P38. I've had lots. Anyway, what I can tell you about the Defender 110, the new Defender 110, which I'll now call Defender 2020 L633, 663, whatever you want to call them. I'll just call it the Defender for now. One of the things I can tell you about the Defender is it is a significant improvement in about every possible way to the original Defender. Now I understand, and we're going to hit this head on, because I understand that there's a bunch of solid axle groupies who are, and I've got friends, I've got friends who are solid axle groupies, and they tell me, oh, you can't fix it if it breaks down in a field with a cable tie. We can't fix it with a cable tie if it breaks down in a field. No, you can't. No, you probably can't. And the reality of the Puma is that you can't do that anyway, even on that. I mean, I suppose you could poke it with the sharp stick if an axle snaps or something, but the reality is that even the Puma has a bunch of electronics and stuff that requires, I mean, it's a 10-hour job to replace the clutch slave cylinder. So I get it. I get that there's some repairability of the older ones that is not present in the newer ones. I get it, I understand. And certainly if you go to series, yeah, absolutely. I recently befriended a chap who's driven an older Series 3, I think, to across Africa, and those sorts of vehicles do have the ability to, I mean, if you can carry all the stuff in a toolbox, and assuming you've got some gasket material and some other bits and bobs, you're away, right? These later vehicles aren't quite like that, but there are different. We live in different times, and what once was good for the series vehicles, and perhaps for for the earlier Defenders, the 90s and the 110s and even the early Range Rovers is no longer the case. It's not the case. It doesn't work because times have moved on. Emissions controls have constrained the way that we operate our engines. We have reduced ability to fix things in the field because the technology demands on the technology are greater, and it's necessary to move with the times. The benefit of this is that you get a vehicle. I am currently traveling at 40 miles an hour on a gravel road. And one of the benefits of this is that at 40 miles an hour on a gravel road, A, you can hear me, and B, my brain isn't dribbling out of my ears. Now, this is also true of the very early Range Rovers, and the early Range Rover Classic is one of my favourite all-time Land Rovers. I've had loads of them. Outstanding vehicle. But this is like a next level. The new Defenders are next level. They're quiet, they're comfortable, they provide you with the same level of luxury and comfort, very nearly that the L322 does, the Range Rover. I came to this Defender from a Range Rover because I was slowly killing my Range Rover, as you might have determined from the Vizog that you see before you. I am not a man that is foreign to a spanner or a pickaxe, and it's important to me that I can use my vehicle for multiple purposes. And the Range Rover never let me down. It was never short, but I always got the feeling in the back of my head that it was the wrong sort of thing to do to a Range Rover, and I was always a bit twitchy about finding a mouldy peanut under the back seats when the kids had strewn their trail mix everywhere. Anyway, so I moved to the Defender because I wanted to feel a little less twitchy. I also wanted a bit more reliability. My Range Rover had done 300,000 miles and pretty much without an issue, so I was expecting some problems to develop, and we do lots of miles. Now out here, you can't see this, but it's very, very pretty. And out here, we do, well, I had my Range Rover for 3 years very nearly, and I put on 60,000 miles in that time, which is roughly 20,000 miles a year, give or take. Actually it was 2.5 years, so maybe a bit more than that, maybe 22,000 miles a year. Anyway, many, because living in Canada, the vast distances are vast in a way that they are not in the Blighty. Now I'm familiar with the Blighty. I like the Blighty. I'm a big lover of the Blighty, and apparently this road is closed, so I can't go down it, so we're going to have to turn around. That's going to be interesting, isn't it? Speaking of interesting, the Defender turning circle, he says, pointing out that he's just spun around in a big circle, is actually quite small. It's almost equivalent to the L322, but it has a longer wheelbase, so it's a little less maneuverable. The longer wheelbase, I'm ranting and I've gone off on a different tangent here, and you must remember where I was coming back to, because I've already forgotten. It's your job to keep up with me. So one of the benefits of having the longer wheelbase is that it tows better, so it's more stable with the towing. There's less bounce around in the trailer. You never feel like the trailer's sort of wagging the dog. If the tailor's wagging the dog, he says, to cross his metaphors. You never get the impression that you're being pushed by the trailer. The downside, of course, is that the turning circle is a little less reduced from the L322, probably equivalent to the original 110. I'd have to check the specs on that, but it's perfectly movable in certainly over here, but we've got all the space in the world over here. So it's quite movable, it's quite adjustable, and you can easily park it with all the tech that goes with it. So going back to the Land Rover Defender versus, the Range Rovers and all these other sorts of things, I get why people are hesitant to move forwards, but basically this Land Rover Defender is a significant improvement on the other one. The downside to this, and I'm going to give you a sort of a balanced sort of view if I can, the contrary to this is that it's smaller in the back. So although you have much more space in the front two seats and a bigger bonnet, The back is a little bit less. You have less space in the back, and the 110 was well renowned for having all the space in the back. You could have a party in there, couldn't you? And so this is a little bit. So that's one of the downsides. The other downside is that it's likely to be far more reliable than any other Defender ever was, in virtue of it having modern technology and the other sorts of things. But you are going to need to tweak it with a computer every now and then, and you are going to have to hope that the updates hold, which they have so far, and it's a new thing. So Land Rover and the Buffins, the tweed capped wearing besuited chaps in Solihull who are busy penciling away with their blueprints, are actually hard work trying to resolve the software glitches that have occurred. And they've occurred because this is the most complicated Land Rover ever made. We all know that the D5 and the L322 and the L, whatever the new Range Rover is called, the L494 or whatever, no, that's not it. Anyway, whatever the 405, that's it. Whatever the new Range Rover is, they're like crammed full of gadgetry. You've got weighting sensors and radars and all that kind of, all the things of adaptive cruise control and the sensors all over the place, gimbal sensors and roll sensors and anti-pitch sensors and all, any yaw sensors, all the things, and that's all there to try and make this a better vehicle on road, because the reality is that despite our bravado and our ego, the reality is that my 20,000 miles a year, 22,000 miles a year, 21,775 are on road, and I use it quite a bit off road, gravel roads and all the like considered. The reality is that we take them off road very infrequently, and having better on-road manners is important. It's an important sort of thing. And so Land Rover have quite rightly privileged this. I have spoken to the guy responsible. His name is Brian. He's a top banana. I like him very much. I've spoken to Brian about the off-road design. He was responsible for making this Defender what it is, and he said it was a constant battle with JLR to push the off-road to its best capabilities, and the primary goal was better on-road manners, and there's a reason for that. The other one was a nightmare. So I'm going to wind the video up now because I've been rambling too long, but what I'm going to say here is that, look, you've got a better vehicle. It's more comfortable, it's quieter. You have this thing called armrest space, arm space. You didn't have that in the other Defender. You've also got some knee space, which was another thing you didn't have. And it's light and airy, and it's comfortable, and it doesn't make a noise, and most of it doesn't rattle, and it's a delightful place to be. And I'm not actually quite sure how they could have improved the interior design any more than there already is. There's a couple of things I would tweak. I would have preferred an armrest, because I'm lazy and I like to steer with my arm and a thing, but that's not a thing. I would have liked a fresh air vent like they had in the L322, or at least some machine gun turrets. We used to call them machine gun turrets, but whatever. I don't think anybody's fired a machine gun turret. But anyway, whatever they were, the little air vents that they had in the old classics, the series, I would have liked something like that, because I get dry eyes when I'm doing 14 or 18 hour driving stints, and that helps. The fresh air helps. But otherwise, I think they've got the inside pretty much perfect, really. I'd have liked the seat to go up a little bit. This is as high as it goes, and I'm like 5'10", I am, and I would have preferred to sit up just a little bit more, and I did get the impression that the seats went up further in the mechanical ones, which is nice. But in the base spec, this isn't the base spec, this is an SE. It's a long story, I could tell you, and I probably shall in my next video, about how my old I had another 110 that we had a bit of drama with, and so that was an S with the P300 engine, and this is an SE with the P400 engine. And to be frank, the only thing I've got in this that I preferred from the other one is the slightly uprated stereo. Nothing else matters really, and there was a $14,000 difference, to be honest. So I would have preferred the older car in that it had a black interior, and it had the It was cheaper. It was cheaper, many cheaper, much cheaper, and much cheaper is better when you're poor like me. Working dude, don't have all the coin on the planet, and I'm doing my best to make ends meet with a family of family of 2 kids and a girlfriend and dog and cats and house and all that. So price is important, and I don't know that the P400 engine is. I'm rambling, aren't I? I've gone from one topic to another. Anyway, I'm not sure that the P400 engine is that much of an improvement on the P300. In fact, I don't think it is. I think for your money, you'd be better taking the P300, which has just an upgrade. It has all the power that the LR3 had in 2005 as a base spec. And here's where I'm going back to the base spec. That P300 had all the toys. That all the toys that I could possibly want, and some more besides. It had all the toys that my L322 had, I think, with the exception of cooled seats, which I didn't really use. And this SE is not much better, really. It only has a slightly fancier stereo upgrade with a sub and the bigger engine, which sucks more juice and is not that much more exciting. And otherwise, it's, but this vehicle is fitted with a clear sight rear view camera, which I could care less about because I'm an ex-truck driver and I don't even use that thing. I don't know what it likes. It's just a dangling thing in my, dig it out. Use these chips. And so it adds, the base spec model has across the board all of the tech that you would need as a basic vehicle. It has the chromatic side view mirrors, dimmable. Rear view mirror, it has accident avoidance, it has rear passenger, rear pedestrian warnings and front pedestrian warnings, it has cruise control, it has heated seats, it has all the toys, right? So the base model, the very basic thing, Land Rover have done this right. I like this about what they've done with the Defender is that sure, the base model is a little bit more money, but the base model comes with all the tech. Mine came with, it had a black pack on. Why you'd have a black pack on a black thing? This is not this car, but the other Defender I had. Why you would have a black pack on a black car, I don't know. Anyway, it had the cameras all around. It had the air suspension. It had everything. It had everything that you could possibly want in a base spec and more. I remember when what you got in a base spec Land Rover was a base spec Land Rover. A radio was an optional extra, and I don't remember buying one, but I remember having bought a used series, and I got the stuff with it, including the bill of sale, and the heater was an optional extra. An optional extra was a heater. We're looking at a massive change in sort of expectations. We originally said my last Defender was a 90. It was a 2002 90. It was a great vehicle. I loved it. It was a beautiful thing to look at. It was a nightmare to live in. The seats you were cramped. You couldn't move about. It was tight. It broke down for fun. I only had it about 6 months and I sent it back to Land Rover, changed it out for a D2 because everything fell off it. It was lovely to look at. It was great on fuel. It had those sorts of things, and it even had heated seats and electric windows. But that was the top spec of a Defender, right? Now we're looking at a different thing. Now we're looking at crumple zones. We're looking at accident avoidance. We're looking at cameras. We're looking at adaptive cruise control, adaptive speed limiting. We're looking at 360 view cameras. Mine's just come on here for some reason or other. It felt that I needed to know there was something nearby. So it had all this kind of tech. It's got the towing capability pack, the tow assist pack. It's got all of this stuff is standard on the base model. This is what you get that you didn't get from the base model Defender. What you got with the base model Defender was a heater and a steering wheel, and you had to option a stereo in it if you wanted something that sounded like your granddad's old radio. Wireless. So that's that. So it's a different vehicle, and I think he says rambling on for 20 minutes when I should have stopped at 12, and I think this is a significant improvement. So just to recap, what I've got here is the P400 SE gas engine Defender. It's a nice car. It's a significantly better car than the original Defender by an acre. If not more. What it does have is more electronics and so you're going to be more dependent upon software updates. You're going to get more niggles. You're going to get more tweaks and more of those little sort of frustrating things. For some reason or other, my adaptive headlights decided that they weren't going to work for the last couple of days. Now they've started to work again. These are small things that'll be fixed by software updates, and so you're going to get more of that, and you're going to get less, I think, probably, of a turbo sat on the floor, which is something that happened to my last Defender. And you're going to get less broken CV joints, which is something that happened on my last Defender. And you're probably going to have less water pump issues, which is something that happened on my last Defender. And you're probably going to have less spun half shafts, which is something that happened on my last Defender. And you're unlikely to have window winder issues. The electric motors that drive the window winders are not likely to fail like they did on my last Defender. You get the picture here. It's just going to be better. It's going to cost you more money, but Land Rover Defenders were never cheap. These, I remember my Land Rover Defender 90 in 2002 cost more money than my D2, which I also bought in 2002, straight from the dealer. I traded them in, and my Land Rover Defender would cost more. So, yeah, they're more money, but you get more for them. You get a car that you can actually drive, as well as a vehicle that is built for work. Anyway, please do continue to continue to like and subscribe to Shedlock 2000's Defender Exploration, or whatever we're going to call it, and the video log of me bambling away inanely, trying to convince you of the ups and downs of Defender ownership. And tune in next week for another exciting episode. I should have made a voice, shouldn't I, really? Tune in next week for another exciting episode of, I don't know, Furthy Talks Defender. Anyway, thanks for listening. Cheerio!